factory burbles. Jeez. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for stopping in, especially if you're new to the channel. I appreciate you following along. I want to do a quick 335i related video today. Q50's in the garage, 335's outside. We got some Q50 projects going on this weekend, so I'm just getting ready to go right now. But I thought right now would be a good opportunity to talk about just how much money I've put into the 335 up to this point. So if you've been following along, you'll know all this already. But if you're new to the channel, we got the 335 several months ago now. With the intention of obviously increasing its performance capabilities, but it's always a good idea with any vehicle, but especially an E92 N54 BMW. It's just a special breed of vehicle. It's a good idea to take care of all of the maintenance things up front before you start trying to increase its performance. It's never a good idea to take a car that maybe is in rough shape, start increasing boost, start pushing it harder, and start beating on it. You know things are just going to fail. So it's always a good idea to take care of those maintenance issues first and get it up to a good base level. So taking care of all the leaks, taking care of all the exhaust issues, making sure the spark plugs and coil packs are in good shape, making sure your injectors are working properly or replaced if need be, belts and hoses and all of those types of things are all in order before you start doing anything crazy. So that's what we've spent the last several months doing with the 335, and we finally reached that level. So I wanted to do a quick run through today of what it has taken to get to that point, as far as the parts that were needed and also how much those things cost. So through this video, I'll show you some clips from different websites. I will scroll through some of the parts so you can get an idea how much they cost, what was exactly used, how much they cost, and where you can find them. And I'll also put links in the description below too. Also, let's just dig right into this. I have my notebook here it's a notebook. It's not a diary, shut up. It's a log, we'll call it a log. Anyway, I keep track of some video ideas and things of that nature in here, but I also keep track of parts and pieces that are purchased for each of the vehicles and how much they cost, just so I have an idea of what I've gotten myself into. Gotta hide this from the wife because if she finds it, probably just do this in chronological order. It's probably easiest to help me kind of trace back everything that I've done too. So getting the vehicle home, you can definitely anticipate needing spark plugs, and if not spark plugs, and coil packs. So that was kind of the first thing I had my mind set on with the 335 anyway. So right away bought coil packs, OE replacement coil packs from FCP Euro, and also I just went ahead and got one step colder spark plugs initially because of the plans that I had for the car. So spark plugs were, we'll just say $125, coil packs maybe $225. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to do some math. Right away, the car really didn't like the one step colder spark plugs, so had to replace those. Another $100 on spark plugs. The next thing was after a couple of nights of the car sitting in the garage, I'd come outside and I could smell fuel. Common issue with 335 is the fuel pressure regulator housing that sits in the gas tank on the driver's side underneath the back seat. It's plastic. It's a plastic housing. I did a video on replacing that. Hopefully it helped a number of you, but it's about $135 replacement, and it takes a couple hours. Another thing I'll talk about is all this work was done by myself personally, so there's a lot of savings there. If you're able to do work on your BMW yourself, it'll save you a lot of time. There's a lot of good tutorials out there. I've put a couple of videos out so far, but at the end, we'll talk about how much it would cost to have all of these things done for you as well. The fuel pressure regulator housing.
Added to the list.
Thankfully, all of the major gaskets had been replaced by the previous owner. That includes valve cover gasket, oil pan gasket, and the water pump had been replaced by previous owner also. So I didn't have to necessarily worry about those big things, which are quite expensive. So the next thing I would say that I replaced was the O2 sensors, upstream O2 sensors. And those are, I think, about $100 a piece, something like that. So another 200 bucks on sensors. Oh, I guess the reason I brought up gaskets was the fact that I purchased gaskets for the oil filter housing gasket. I think it's 40 bucks, $40. I wanted to have the car inspected. Typically, I would recommend doing a pre-purchase inspection, but I had the car in town, and we have a great little BMW specialist shop just down the road from me, Upstate Performance. So I took the car there, 60 bucks, just to get it kind of a once over, make sure that I wasn't missing anything, and kind of give me an idea, since this was my first BMW also, give me an idea of some other things that I might want to look out for. Turns out that the car got a clean bill of health, especially considering its age, so that was great. So just 60 bucks for the inspection. I had to fix, or I wanted to, some of the trim pieces on the interior, on the doors, were just kind of in a little bit of rough shape, so I wanted to wrap them in vinyl just to make them look a little bit nicer, so I did that. So I would say $30 or so on vinyl, which is not an essential piece, but I wanted to take care of a couple of cosmetic things too while I was working on some of these maintenance, tedious maintenance issues. So we'll throw 40 bucks in there, why not? And then of course, there was just evidence that some of the, well, at least one of the injectors was leaking. It had the telltale signs at startup, a little maybe puff of smoke and some kind of popping here and there. So I knew it had to be the injectors, and the car ran fine after it got warmed up. So all that excess fuel that had been leaking, got pushed out, and the car ran fine after it was warm. But we had to address the injector issue. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can go right ahead and buy brand new Index 12 injectors. It's going to cost you about 1,300 bucks. I didn't want to do that at the time. So I found some pre-owned Index 12 injectors for $500. So 500 bucks. Got those installed, and I developed a misfire on cylinder 3. So it wasn't the spark plugs, had to be an injector. So I swapped number 3 injector with the number 4 injector, and sure enough, that misfire moved to cylinder number 4. So I had to buy another injector. Rather than dealing with pre-owned, whether you get a deal or not, I just went to FCP Euro and bought a brand new one, $220. So my advice, just go ahead and get yourself some brand new injectors if you are in the market. I forgot to mention that with the pre-owned injectors, you want to change those, the injector seals at the bottom, as well as the decoupler rings. So I think all of those for a set of 6, the seals are like $5 a piece. So that was like $30, and I think the decouplers were just a couple of dollars a piece. So I'm gonna say $50 total for decouplers and seals. When we were talking about gaskets, I got gaskets for the intake manifold as well as the throttle body. So I think that was like $25 and $17, something like that. So we'll just go ahead and say $40 more for additional gaskets. Then I did the valve cover, the valve cleaning. I was gonna do walnut blasting, which is $300, but I did it myself with just valve cleaner. Check out that video, link in the description. So I think it's like $8 a can for valve cleaner, 4 cans, $32. Some miscellaneous cotton swabs and scrapers and whatnot. So let's just say $45 for at-home valve cleaning. Just last night before, I dropped a headlight, low beam at least, so ordered some cheap replacement bulbs, $45 on Amazon. things that do me no good, but you need them. I can't stand that. My gosh, I can't believe I ever forgot it. The very first thing I did, and the very first 335 video that I put up, I think was the front wheel bearings. That's an easy job. Shouldn't take you more than an hour or two. Pretty simple, but it really changed how the car drives, and it was essential. When I drove the car home, it was like a 2-hour drive home from where I bought it, and that driver's side hub was just howling. So that was a necessary change. Those were the very first parts that I ordered for this car, and I want to say they're $75 or $80, so we'll just round up just for the sake of it, $80. And changing out the vacuum lines, good idea on these cars too, if they got high mileage especially. You know, you can get, I think, 6 feet of it, or it jumps to like 15 or 20 feet, something like that. Just get a bunch of it. It's like $25. I did 2 oil changes already. I put just over 1,000 miles on the car. I did 2 oil changes, first because we had leaking injectors, and a common failure that occurs in these cars is spun bearings, and that's because that leaking injector sends fuel obviously into the cylinders, and that fuel works its way into the engine, which dilutes the engine oil, taking away its lubricating properties, causing issues in the engine. I couldn't smell fuel in the oil, so that was a good sign, but I didn't want to take any chances, so we changed the oil, got all of that cleaned out, ran the car for another couple hundred miles just to really mix it all up in there again, and then changed that again. So with filters and liquid moly oil, it was like right at $90 per change, so we're gonna say $180 already. Well, I think really that's it. I'm looking through my book. Nothing stands out on the top of my head, and I don't have anything left here, so I think that's pretty much it, besides a few odds and ends tools that I picked up just to make things a little bit easier. Those were the major components, and I think that's it. So doing a little bit of math. Oh God, we're at $2,085, so almost $2,100 just to get this thing up to a point where we're ready to start doing modifications. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as you look at used 335s and plan on getting one and modding. You're gonna wanna take care of a lot of this stuff, or you're gonna wanna make sure that a lot of this stuff has already been done. Now, if we were to add valve cover gasket and water pump and oil pan gasket, that, you know, makes that price go up even more, especially if you pay a shop to do it, because it's gonna be quite expensive. So doing this work yourself that I mentioned, about $2,100. Now, if you have the shop do it, I'm sure they'll charge, oh my gosh, an hour or so to change out coil packs, maybe more. Just keeping math simple as we possibly can. Think about $100 an hour, and that's probably a pretty generous shop actually. Plugs, and if you're buying the parts from them, they're gonna be marked up too, and you're gonna be paying a premium. But we're not gonna deal with all that. We're just gonna estimate this. Changing out plugs, probably another hour. Oil filter, or the fuel pressure regulator housing. I heard somebody say that they charge like 3 hours to do that, $300. O2 sensors. Somebody said that with the sensors and labor, it costs $700, but I've heard other people say $500, so we're gonna say $500. Intake manifold gaskets and throttle body gasket change out, probably another couple hours, we'll say $200. Inspection will be the same. $40, what was that for? We'll skip that. Injectors, if you buy them from a dealership, that's gonna be expensive too. But to replace those, probably a few hours, we'll say $300. We won't count the replacing in a second injector because we'll assume you do it right the first time. 50 and 40. Valve cleaning. Upstate Performance here in the Greenville area charges $300 flat fee. That's the best I've ever heard. A lot of people have said $500 to $800 is not unusual, so we're just gonna say $600 for valve cleaning. Bulbs, again, another hour to change those probably at a shop. vacuum lines. Anybody can do those themselves, so I'm not going to talk about that. What was the last thing? Oh, 80. Wheel bearings. Probably a 3-hour job. We'll say $300 to have those done for you. I don't remember what this 180 was for. Anyway, we'll add all this together. So adding all of the potential labor for doing these things too, and this is on the low side because I couldn't remember a couple of things that I said. I'm not going to go back and watch what I talked about, but adding just some of these labor parts together, it's an additional $2,500. So essentially you over doubled what you paid for parts. And a lot of these things are easy. I know BMW 335s or BMW in general they can be intimidating to work on your own because there are a ton of hoses, a ton of sensors, a ton of parts, and everything is connected and everything has a warning light and blah, blah, blah. It's just a lot. And trust me, being around cars for a long time over the last, growing up around cars and working on them myself for the last 20 years or so, I was still intimidated popping the hood of a BMW, really looking at it for the first time for myself to take on some of these projects. So if you're new to working on vehicles, it can be intimidating, but take your time, look at it, learn it, research as much as you possibly can, watch YouTube videos, and it really isn't that bad. So you can certainly save yourself a ton of money, obviously, just doing some of these regular maintenance type things, $2,500 in savings. So that's pretty awesome. But a total of about $2,085 to purchase these things and do them on your own. And if you were to add labor costs on top of that, you're looking at least $2,500 for a total of $4,585. Almost $5,000 just to get this thing up and going to where you're comfortable increasing its performance. It's kind of hard to swallow. So if anything has become very, very clear with this video, it's that if you are able to do your own work, you can save massive, massive amounts of money. But just anticipate, if you pick up a BMW that's pre-owned, obviously, if you're picking up an N54, somebody else had it before you. But if you are getting into this BMW world, be prepared to put a significant amount of money into it immediately to get it to where it needs to be before you start modifying the vehicle. It's very important, but don't be intimidated. Take your time, look into things, do some research, watch some videos, and you'll be okay. I'm confident in your abilities because you're fantastic. Thanks guys very much for watching. I appreciate the continued support. We'll see you in the next video. A lot of good stuff for the Q50 and BMW coming up. See ya.